Welcome, final expense agents and brokers, to the most popular audio training and podcast in the industry, The Lead Jerk Show, where we cut through the red tape and give you only the best in expert interviews. So strap in and grab a cold beverage and get ready to learn and earn. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the one and only Matt Lowery, also known as The Lead Jerk.
All right, so we're here with Shannon Davey, and he is with finalexpensebootcamp.com. Again, finalexpensebootcamp.com. And Shannon, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for taking time today to talk with me and, put out some of your knowledge in final expense and business dealings. And if you could start, could you give us, a little bit more information about you, maybe confirm the website, phone number, contacts, kind of a summary of what you do on a day-to-day basis.
First of all, Matt, praise God. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm very thankful for this time to be able to share knowledge and, help out the fellow FE insurance agent. And, like you said, I'm Shannon Davey. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I've been selling final expense since 1996. I was 25 years old when I got into the business. Anybody that wants to reach out to me, my phone number is 210-771-3754, and that is my cell phone. Also, my email address is the letter MIG, Shannon, SHANNON, @gmail.com. And like I said, Matt, I was 25 years old. I was freshly married. We had a baby on the way. It was our first child. And I was working at Walmart, and I just was wasn't making enough money to afford the car that we had, and I had to go back to the banker and get a refi. And he told me, he said, Shannon, you can't raise a family on $1,000 a month. And I was just like, Lord, I was like, Walmart cannot be my final destination. There has to be something better out there. And so I was actually in Oklahoma at a buddy's wedding when I saw an ad in the paper. And the ad said, I'm looking for someone to take over my business. If you're well-dressed and well-spoken, I'll train you and train you well. And I'll pay you and pay you well. If you can handle $3,000 to $4,000 a month, give me a call. And Matt, I looked at my wife and she's pregnant, and I go, honey, $3,000 to $4,000 a month. I go, I can be anybody this guy wants me to be. And so I call him up and I tell him, I'm like, wow, hey, I live in Texas, but I'm here in Oklahoma for a wedding, and if you hire me, I'll move, and so I go to the interview, and the guy gives me a presentation on insurance and how even through the Great Depression, people still paid their insurance premiums. And Matt, I've always been like a salesman, a closer type, personality. My dad always said, I could talk the leaves off a tree. I was in Amway. I had big dreams, of making it big in Amway. But the one thing that I needed was just a little more, closing techniques in the business world. When it was with my friends, it was easy. I could talk them into doing all kinds of things. But when it got into the business world of it, I just lacked some of those techniques. And so I told him, I said, look, I can give a great presentation. I said, but I need some help in the closing area. He says, no problem. We're going to send you to school. Going to be there for a week. And so that's what I started out to do. That was my introduction into the insurance business. It was going door to door. I was trained for a week to go door to door into businesses and give a presentation on cancer, first-time diagnosis, heart disease, heart attack, stroke, policies, that type of stuff. And I was very fortunate that I did not have to move to Oklahoma. Because after the interview, when the guy gave me his card, I remember the logo. And so when I got back to Texas, and I was, remember, I was in Amway, so I collected a lot of business cards, and I actually prospected a manager for this same insurance company, but in Texas. And so I called Skip up, and I'm like, Skip, I go, hey, this is Shannon. I said, I prospected you for Amway at that Mexican food restaurant, Los Pepis, months ago. Maybe even it was a year. And he goes, oh, yeah, the fat, chubby guy. I was like, oh, thanks a lot. I'm going to punch you in the mouth next time I see you. But anyways, we hit it off. And so I just was an instant success because I did what I was trained to do. And I learned early that this is a numbers game, and that in order for the business model to work going door to door into businesses, we had to give 20 to 25 presentations a day. And I was actually on a 30% commission going door to door selling these policies, and was very successful. I did it for 2 months. They were ready to make me a manager. I still had a temporary license. And I was going to move from the small town, it's just outside of Waco, Texas, to Austin to build a team there. And that's when a buddy of mine called me from Amway. And he said to me, he goes, hey, Shannon, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm selling insurance. And he said, me too. And I said, really? I said, well, I'm about to become a manager. I'm going to move to Austin. They're going to build me a team. And he goes, oh, that's great. He goes, I'm already a manager. And I said, that's great. I said, I'm going from 30% commission to 35. And he goes, we start people out at 50% and we have leads. Now, Matt, I'm very ignorant in the insurance business. Okay. That's just the way it is.
Right.
Brand new. And I said to Joe, I go, what's a lead? He goes, Shannon, you don't understand. He goes, we mail out these postcards to senior citizens, and they talk about life insurance. They check a box of how much coverage they want, and then we go sign them up. I go, you're kidding me.
Right. Right.
Now this is 1996. Okay.
Right.
So
let me back up. Let me back up for a second, Shannon. And ask you.
Okay.
Just in case, we may have had a little bit of technical difficulty when you said how you saw the ad. So a guy basically put an ad out and said that he wanted somebody to help take over, and he would train you and pay $3,000-4,000 a week if you would show up and you were well dressed and well spoken. Right, $3,000-4,000 a month, and you said, "Hey, I'm in," and you just took off from there. Okay, so let's make sure that if that was missed, we got that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm kind of blown away because I'm like, you're kidding me. People actually fill out postcards that they want life insurance, and I had a light bulb just kind of dinged over my head that everybody's going to die someday. I'm out here giving 20 to 25 presentations a day to people, giving a cancer presentation, and not everybody's going to get cancer, but
right.
Yet people send in cards for life insurance. And I told him, I said, I'm in. And I didn't investigate it. I didn't do any due diligence. I called the manager that I was underneath, Doris Horn, and I told her, I said, I quit. She's like, what?
Right.
And I said, I'm gonna go sell life insurance. They have leads. And so that's when I met Scott Riddle, just an icon in the business. He's out of Waco, Texas, and his secretary, Jackie. And I went into Scott's office, and again, I'm kind of ignorant in the business, and I'm thinking that I'm going to get trained. I may have like a week-long training of learning the product, learning a presentation and stuff like that. And so I meet Scott and sit down with him, and he hands me after the meeting, he hands me a stack of brochures, applications, and a stack of leads. And he said, go get it. And I go, Scott, what do I say? Very innocent question. And he goes, what do you mean? What do you say? You sell it. And I go, okay, well, how do you sell it? And he goes, don't you know nothing, boy? You sell peace of mind. And I'm like, okay, he's not understanding me. And I said, Scott, I go, do you have a script, something to teach me what to say? And he gets on his intercom and he says, Jackie, we got a script to teach agents how to sell. And she intercoms him right back and she says, no, Scott, everybody you hire already knows how to sell. And he looked at me and he goes, well, there you have it. Go sell. And I'm like, okay. So I go home and I create this, like this presentation, kind of based off the presentation that I learned, the canned presentation selling cancer supplement. You had to have an opening, gaining some trust, stuff like that. And I just because of my sheer numbers, I was used to giving 25 presentations a day. When you handed me 25, 30 leads, I went and I got in front of every single one of them. I chased those people down. I didn't schedule appointments. I mapped them out, the old Ferguson map, those old days before we had the smartphones and before GPS. I mapped that stuff out, and I'd go knock those doors, and I loved it. I loved it because I had a card in my hand that they filled out. Mm-hmm. So you're not getting away from me,
Right.
Oh, you don't speak English? The card's in English. I'm not buying that. I don't know if you run into that in the. I don't know if you run into that in Georgia, but
you do,
but anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was my introduction. That was 1996, and Matt, I've begged friends to get into this business. Matter of fact, 2 of the first agents that I hired and trained still work with me today, and
wow.
And it's just because it's just such a fun thing. I love the time that you get in the final expense industry. Not time out there in the field, but the time it allows you to be with your family and to hang out with your friends, right, to plan trips and to do things. I mean, dude, final expense, if you really master final expense, it gives you freedom. And that's what I love about this business.
It does. I was talking to an agent the other day, and I don't know, it was actually yesterday, and he texted me or called me out of the blue. He's like, hey, Fridays, sometimes I work Fridays, sometimes I don't. Most I don't. I try not to, And he called me, he was like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just, doing some paperwork, just hanging out with the family. And I was like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, Shane, just living the FE life. So, there's a lot to be said about having, you work hard when you're out there, but, it does free up a lot more time than having a 8 to 5, clock in, clock out type of schedule.
That's right. And, it's not easy, because if it was easy, anybody and everybody be doing it. But it is simple. It's a simple business. You just have to make sure that your work ethic is in check and that your attitude is in check. And you just have to be able to deliver a solid presentation.
Yeah, and let me ask you this, Shannon. Because you've been in this a long while now. I mean, I know you've seen agents come and go, agencies come and go. What's been your biggest hurdle, if any, to figure out or, to work through in final expense to where at that point you said, you know what, I got this down. I know if I just do ABC 1, 2, 3 that it's almost comes down to a science that it's gonna work.
Well, honestly, my biggest hurdle was myself, my attitude. That right there was, I was very aggressive in the business in the 90s and I would say, the first 4 or 5 years in the business, just very aggressive. If you didn't buy from me, then you really hated me, because I I felt like you filled out this card, you're going to pass away. You need this insurance. And it was definitely my attitude was the biggest hurdle I had to overcome. I just had to, realize that, you can't take anything personal in this business. I have a motto now: if it doesn't sell it, don't say it. I think that pride.
That's good to live by. Yeah, it's good to live by. That's a good saying. Yeah.
I think another was pride. I had to overcome pride issues because, again, I just, when I locked on to, especially if there was a need, okay, I mean, the people had to kick me out of their house. I guess you have to, I was trained to go door to door, so I just, I had tough skin, but I just didn't want to give up, because I was like, I'm in front of you. You're going to pass away one day. You need the insurance. What's the problem? And so definitely attitude and pride. And so that's, matter of fact, too, the first two agents that I hired, they actually helped me overcome those two things because, they said that my good buddy Patrick, he was the one that said, Shannon, he's like, man, he goes, if it doesn't sell it, don't say it. And that's how, I was like, you know what, I'm going to have to live by that. And so it just, I'd say about 2001 was when I was able to break out of that shell and free myself and start to work like I didn't need the money, like I just didn't care. And just, hey, 80% of the people that I get in front of, they just like me, and I as long as I'm given, have good eye contact and I'm smiling and just keeping a lively, presentation, conversation going, finding that common ground, they're going to do business with me. And so that's what I started to just to fall back on. And it's been a huge blessing.
So I guess attitude, having the right attitude kind of can make the difference between an agent making it and not, right?
Oh yeah, this could be the easiest, $100,000 a year career, or it can be, the most horrible $30,000 a year job,
Mm-hmm.
And what if nobody buys today? Oh gosh, they're not going to be home. They're going to say they got to talk to their, daughter. I guess it's just, also allowing yourself to focus on the circumstances of the business.
Right.
Put it like this, Matt. When you, and just like every other producing agent out there, when you heard about Final Expense, you fell into it. You had a vision. You had a vision of success. And so when you get out in the field, you start running into circumstances. People
right.
telling you that, I didn't fill that card out, slamming the door in your face. Oh, forget about it. And so now the circumstances, chargebacks, people right after you write a $100 app, and you're like, woohoo! And then next thing you know, they call and they say, I want to cancel.
Right.
Everybody can allow those circumstances to overshadow your vision of success. And so that's what you got to do. You got to keep that vision alive. Keep it in front of you. Keep the business simple, and keep your attitude in check. Do a checkup from the neck up. Make sure you're smiling.
Right.
Make sure you have good eye contact. So yes.
Yeah, one thing I always try to tell myself when I'm out in the field, Shannon, is you're grinding it out. Maybe you have a day you had 9 appointments, you didn't sell something. The next day you sell a couple of decent policies, and at the end of that day you're just thinking, well, okay, I got another day or another day and a half in the field, and I just say to myself, you know what, this is how it's done. This is how it's done. And when I had my first ride along for training, that's what was drilled into me. Hey, this is how it's done. It's not always glamorous when we're out here doing it, but it sure is nice when the payday shows up. So that's what I've always said to myself, is this is how it's done. No matter what, you just got to keep going, because, you know this, you could work 3 days in the field and not sell a single application, and then the 4th day you sell 7. So I think the people that give up are the ones that end up, losing out. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
What marketing methods do you employ? Or I know you mentioned direct mail. What all do you recommend now, or do you have in place with your agency and stuff like that? Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe about if you've done any kind of lead studies, or what you think works best, and what the agent needs to keep in mind while they're working leads? Because there's no such thing as the magic lead. If there was, we would be retired. So.
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. I say dance with the girl that brought you, and that's direct mail. After direct mail, TV leads. After TV leads, I would say telemarketed leads. I've not tried internet leads, so I have no idea how those work. However, just thinking, I cut my teeth on direct mail and TV with Scott Riddle. Now I'm a 50% commission, so I'm getting stuff down my throat, 30 leads a week, because back in 1996, 97, 98, we were really getting in Texas 2 to 3% return. I mean, the lead looked like it was from the government. I mean, that's, I know that's why they have all those regulations now, because it had the picture of the state capitol. It had Social Security plastered all over it, I mean, to tell you, it was awesome. But and then we ran these little direct response TV commercials, and those were pretty much golden. So when I broke off from Scott Riddle, the first thing I did was go down to the local TV station and develop a direct response TV commercial. Had a little call center and some appointment setters. I think it's like 2000 and 2000. No, it was 19. It was actually October of 1999 when I started this, and so we just ran a little simple, Social Security 255 type, just like the mail card lead type of TV commercial. Ran it during the lunchtime news, and it pulled really good, and those were golden. But TV is fickle. If the inventory gets too tight, then they start to raise the price of your commercial. So I started out at $250 a spot, then $350, then $450, and then they jumped it up to $800 a spot. And I'm like, guys, hey, it's just not worth it. So I'd fall back to direct mail. But in 2004, I think it was 2004 or 2003, I bought my first auto dialer. Now, I wish that we could bring those auto dialers back, because auto dialers were the best lead, because the message was pure about life insurance, and if they wanted it, they would press 1, they would leave their information, and that was a lead. And and I ran my agency, for, I guess, maybe it was 2002. Anyways, for sure, close to 7 years, maybe even 8 years, all the way to 2009, September, when they came out with that legislation that it was, illegal to use the auto dialer unless you had a signed EBR, well, who's going to get that? Exactly. So then I fell back onto direct mail, and I've just been running direct mail, since then, since 2009. I have developed a couple other TV commercials, and got those out there. Did pretty good running some campaigns, but again, it's just it's direct mail. That's the one that I fall back on. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, and let me ask you this, and it may put you on the spot a little bit, but I'm sure you can handle it. on with direct mail, right? With direct mail, did you have an evolution on the type of direct mail you like the card you like the most, or because look, I've already figured out after doing this a couple of years, there's certain cards that maybe weren't the best when you were a rookie, but now it's kind of like, well, I could probably work that card now, no problem, because I know how to get through and communicate better with people once I'm in the house and sit down and find out really what's going on. So did you have any kind of evolution like that with your own, growth and figuring out, okay, that lead maybe would have scared me before, but now it's not an issue? Because I know a lot of agents have that question.
Well, I don't think that there's any card out there that, okay, there's been a couple of cards that, there's one out there that some people are using called the government lead. And,
yep.
That lead is so misleading. I can't believe that people are actually getting away using it. Because when I ran it, they thought I was definitely from some government agency. Most people thought I was
right.
with Medicare, and you know what? Listen, I'm not into the bait and switch type of stuff. It's like
right, me either.
I want to go talk to somebody that understands what they filled out and sent in, and there's. And I got a producer out in California that got some leads. I won't name where he got them, but man, it's called a state benefit lead, and he is having a horrible time. And I just was like, man, I can't believe you picked that lead out. But everybody, I'd say 90% of the people that he sees are thinking that it was free from the government. And when you read the card, it's like, that sounds like it's free. So,
right.
I say for producing agents, it's like, it's not always about the quantity of the lead. It really is about the quality of it. Can we, twist things a little bit and get in the door? But I'm just like, I just don't like that. I'm a student of the word. It just says, present things, truthfully to all people. And so anyways, here's the thing that what I've seen with the leads is, so many people have gotten into final expense, that they're just being pummeled. All the seniors are being pummeled with mailers from Lincoln Heritage, and then they got people from American National and Reliable Life knocking on their doors, and then of course they got MetLife out there, and all these other companies that don't have agents that just berate these people with mail. I was in a lady's house the other day, and she seriously had 5 different mail cards from different companies.
Right.
And so, the thing that I would say is like, what, when you get your lead, you better go work it. Because if you don't, somebody else, I promise you, somebody else is going to be seeing that client if you don't get out there and do it.
Yeah, it's I think working as fast as possible. At least within 48 hours, 72 hours, you got to get on them. And you got to have good, consistent lead flow too. So let me ask you this: what if you could say, because you've been around a long time and you've dealt with different carriers. I'm sure you've seen them come and go, right? People that thought they wanted to be in a final expense business, that tried it, got out. You could probably tell me some good history lessons there on companies that you've seen come and go that I've maybe not even ever heard of. But as of right now, can you say who's your probably most reliable or favorite carrier, or maybe a couple of carriers you really like, and maybe why they work so well with you in your agency?
Yeah, you know what? Let me tell you this. I definitely have seen a lot of carriers jump in the final expense business and then jump out because they find out that it is hot in the hot tub. And, normally it's after 2 years when they have to start paying the death claims, and then they start seeing the holes in the application, and the first thing that they do is tighten up the underwriting. And when that doesn't, make it work, then they raise, the premiums. And if that doesn't work, then they get out of the business. CNA, National State, Pan American, Chesapeake, Shenandoah. Just you're right. The list just goes on. As far as a favorite company, Matt, these insurance companies are only as good as the people behind that door running it. Your new business, your underwriters and stuff like that. I would say to the producer out there is get to know the people in that insurance company. Call the underwriters, ask them questions, talk to new business, talk to customer service. Really manage, your book of business, by helping your clients, when they call you, just, take the time and call the company on a three-way and get it done. Take care of the small things, and the big things will take care of themselves. As far as my favorite, company, gosh, I mean, I keep seeing faces. Right now I keep thinking about Brian Pearson over at Madison. I mean, just a wonderful man, a family man, Christian man, great values. Jim Barlow over at United Heritage, Rob Thiel over at Settlers. The guys, Darren Sleva over at American Amicable. Gosh, I mean, I could just keep going. There's, here's the thing. It's like, I want to say this, is that there's three things that make the insurance company profitable. And one of them is they got to go out and they got to get a book of business. Number two is they got to maintain that book of business. And number three is they have to have fewer to average death claims. Now, the death claims don't really kill the deal, okay, but placement and persistency will kill the deal. And so, the agent, the producer, is in all three of those equations, because most insurance companies are not going to go get that book of business by themselves, so they need to get us involved. And then, of course, we have to do our due diligence, again, to make sure we maintain that book of business by just, the customer service, and then make sure we do our due diligence to really get correct field underwriting out there. I mean, listen, when you get in front of Mrs. Jones and you get all her health history and medicines out on the table, well, if all you can offer her is a wet paper bag, then make sure that you show her a wet paper bag and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, I know this paper bag is wet, and if you put any groceries in it now, the bottom's going to fall out. But I promise you, if you will just hang on to this paper bag for 2 years, it'll be the strongest paper bag ever. You can stuff as much stuff in it as you want. I'm just be honest, with your clients and let them know, what they qualify for. I got to tell you, I love how United Heritage pays. I mean to tell you, and the customer, I do too. Yeah. The customer service at United Heritage is phenomenal. American Amicable. I mean, they got the best. It's the most friendly website to an agent to be able to check your business. So I'd have to say, Matt, that I like a lot of different companies, and I like little different things about them. So.
Right. Each one has its place. Yeah. Each one has its place at an agent and in the field, right? Yeah.
Exactly, because again, this is not a one-size-fits-all, and you have to be able to navigate, because listen, you paid $30+ for the lead. If they want something, then you should have it in your bag to at least be able to offer it to them. That's what I feel.
Okay, cool. And as far as like your agency goes, your group, how you do stuff, what, as far as what you offer your team in training, product, lead selection, what could you tell a little bit about that? Obviously nothing proprietary, but just kind of what value you've got a lot of experience in what value you've brought to the forefront and maybe even pioneered some stuff. Kind of what your philosophy is on as you're bringing agents in to get ready for this career.
Training is, the number one thing, and not just teaching them a presentation, but getting them mentally prepared that they can and will make money in this business if they follow the path. Presentation training, closing techniques, rebuttals, how to properly do replacements. We love on our agents. That's just the way it is. We have, I have two full-time recruiters in the office. I'm personally out in the field myself. And so just kind of leading by example. I encourage the producers to come to San Antonio and ride with me for a couple of days. The mentorship of just being in the business, just the knowledge that I have, and I'm constantly learning. Constantly learning, especially from, new guys coming up. One of my best door approaches came from my neighbor who had never been in the insurance business and, was looking over at me going, man, hey, I want this, lifestyle. I told him from the get-go, I said,
right.
It's tough. I said, most people don't make it. And I said, and you're my neighbor, and if you don't make it, I can't have you mad at me. And I said, so I'm actually trying to discourage you from getting into the business. Well, he ain't in the business anymore, And matter of fact, he got a big old fat debit balance roll-up. But you know what? I don't care. I just gave that to the Lord, and I was like, you know what? This is my neighbor. I said, I got to see him every day, so I don't care about that.
Right.
And we laugh about it and stuff like that. And but he you know what? He gave me this, because he instantly he was a success in the business. For the first, I would say, 2 months, I was like, man, I go, you are just doing awesome. I said, I asked him about how he's mapping his stuff out. He goes, I don't map nothing out, Shannon. He goes, I just grab the leads and I just type in the address, and I may have one on this side of town and on the other side of town, and I'm just like, he goes, I just figured that it works out that way. And I said, well, what are you saying at the door? And he just says, when they open that door, I say, good morning, Mrs. Jones. My name is Lee. Is this your handwriting? Did you fill out this card? This is a very important, time-sensitive information. I'm here to get it to you, man. Please come in. And I was like,
and that was it.
I was like, okay, that's it. That's as simple as it gets. And so I just had this little door approach kind of, I wrote it down, and then from there I kind of developed this very simple, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mrs. Jones. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm Shannon Davey. I just came by to visit with you about this postcard that we received in the mail from your address. The postcard was addressed to you, Mrs. Jones. Is this your handwriting? You do remember filling this out and mailing it in? Yes, ma'am. Wonderful, because I'm Shannon Davey. I'm here with your information. May I please come in? And it's like butter. I mean to tell you, just as long as you're pegging them in the eye and you're smiling and you don't have any, like questions in your voice, you're speaking it confidently, and I'm telling you, you're getting in the house. And so that's been one of my best door approaches. But, again, it's just like I have my training on video, my 5-step presentation, it's on video. My producers, they can schedule one-on-ones. I'll spend an hour, however long it takes, just on the phone, mentoring them, making sure that they're delivering the presentation correctly. If they're struggling, if they're in a low time, they give me a call, and I just kind of help them get out of that. Again, It's very simple because all I'm doing is helping them overcome those circumstances and getting their focus back on the vision of success. So it's a simple process, but again, we're there, and so that's what we offer. We offer mail card leads. We have them at $26 a piece, $27 a piece. Depending on what type of filters that they put on them. We have access to television leads. We have access to IVR leads. We have if somebody wants to have their own BRM and they want to even create their own mail piece. We help some of our producers get a BRM. We have a mail house in San Antonio. We have a really good rate, and we get the list, and that all that direct mail it comes back to the producer to their PO box, and so just different avenues for the agents to plug themselves into. We have some lead financing if that's if the agent needs like a little shot in the arm to get themselves going. And we help we do hire producers that are not licensed. We help them get their license and teach them the ropes. Sometimes they'll drive around with me for a couple of weeks. Those are more of the local type of producers here in Texas that'll do that. So
okay, excellent. Well, I was on here just taking a look at stuff on websites and stuff, and obviously you got that set up too, and you do some video training. So cool. So you got an agent has access to any type of lead pretty much they would need, all that kind of stuff. So that's excellent to know. Let me ask you, Shannon, why did you pick because you didn't really start off in final expense, but what made you obviously having a great lead source and having lead flow and knowing your product and all that is very important. But is there one reason why you decided to actually, stay with final expense, from kind of like your earlier when you adopted it very early in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the time, the freedom, and the money. I love this business. I love the people in this business. And, when like I said, I fell into final expense, and the reason that I stayed is because of the simplicity of this business. Where else can you go and write $5,000 to $6,000 to $7,000 to $8,000 in commissionable premium in a week, and within 5 days have 90% of that in your bank account? Right. I don't know. I don't know where that business is. And Matt, I have, I just have to give glory to the Lord because, there had been times that I was struggling in the business, like we talked about, and I would call my wife and I would really be bawling like a baby. I hate this business. These people,
right?
And so, anyways, but the good Lord he just kept me in it. I had other people that I recruited and trained, and they were successful, and then they kind of hit like a low in their career, and next thing you know, they started looking elsewhere, and they started focusing on other things. And I've seen them get out of final expense and go into health, go into mortgage, go into annuities, and guess what? They've all come back. I mean, because it's a very simple business. Right. And I guess what has kept me in it is just the longer that I've been in it, the more I understand it. And with the change of attitude and just letting go pride issues, that I started to understand the people in this business. And let's face it, we're dealing with the lower to middle income class, okay, and so they may not be educated in the school sense, but they're educated in the street type smart sense, and right. And so if there is going to be a certain percentage of your clients that you're just going to have to deal with, and you're going to have to maintain their business, and no matter what business that you get into, There's always going to be those pompous, arrogant, rude people that just, it gets you in a funk. But I'm telling you, do not let those people determine your future. You rise above that stuff and you put your focus back on your vision of success and get in front of that next person and do your best to give them the best presentation that you can. And you watch, it'll turn around on a dime. And then you'll get that sale and you'll be so high. There's nothing like closing a deal in final expense, man, because it's like, I hate to say it like this, but as soon as we walk out that door, I mean, it's like we understand how much money we just made. And that makes me excited.
Exactly. Yeah, and I tell people, they ask me sometimes, and of course I give my opinion sometimes when I shouldn't. But, I tell people, I say, listen, this business can be a roller coaster. You got to be able to ride a roller coaster. It's got its ups and its downs, but just like any business, you strive for the ups versus the downs. And more than not, I heard a guy that I respect a whole lot told me one time that and if you hear this, he'll know who I'm talking about. You can have a bad week, but if you work hard all month and you do what you're supposed to, you're not going to have a bad month.
Right on. Right on, man. I've heard that before too. It's very true.
And I think it's important that for like what you have set up on your website for people to be able to go there and learn, and you got the video training set up and everything. That's excellent. Your presentation, so excellent. So that's pretty much why you sit on final expense is it's just simple. As far as do you see any changes coming up, Shannon, as far as how people are going to have to reach out to grab prospects, maybe say 10 years down the road? Do you see, because I haven't worked internet leads either. I probably will eventually, but do you see a small shift going there? I mean, personally, I think there'll be a few more people online, but ultimately, my thought is there's really not going to be that many more final expense, clientele that are going to be looking on the web. Obviously, some that are our age now are going to age into it, true, but I just don't think that's where they're going to be. What are your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right, Matt. This business is it's personal. Life insurance is an emotional sale, and you got to scratch the wound, so to speak. People that are searching the web, they just have an instant need. Something just happened, and they're just savvy enough that they're going to go and they're going to look. And if they see something they like, then they're going to buy. So there's that business is going to be there. But again, this business is about relationships. I say it to my producers like this. I said, look, go in there earnestly to find out about your client. Find out who they are, what they've been through, as a human being, not just a sale, because Mr. and Mrs. Jones could be helping you pay your bills for the rest of their life. So why not get out there, build that relationship, and then work it and get those referrals? Now, there's some changes in the industry. I actually stepped out of the field for a couple of years, and which I'm not ever going to do again. I took a little break, and I still kept my presentation sharp. However, when I got back out into the field, I had some catching up to do, so to speak, as far as keeping that vision of success alive. And so I realized at that time, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be in the field. I may not work every week, but I'm going to be very consistent in my work ethic as far as just personal production. And what I noticed, a little change out there, is that younger people are actually sending in the lead cards. Now you can put some filters on some of these price per lead deals, but you're still, you're going to get those younger people that are sending in the cards, the 50, 55, that type of age bracket. And guess what? They may not be the right fit for Final Expense. They may be, in really good health. They still are working. They have some type of 401k. They might need like maybe a UL or maybe a term. So you just be prepared to write some other type of product in that house. That's what I had to catch up to really quick. As far as the change in the field, where do I see that going? Again, the Final Expense agent needs to be well versed in those other products because you're going to run into it. I don't see. I still see direct mail and TV and telemarketing. I still see those very strong in the future. I don't see those going away at all.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't see those going away for not at least not within our lifetime. I just think that it's kind of like a phone, right? It's been improved upon, but it's cell phones are still phones. I think that there may be a faster, quicker, cheaper way to do direct mail, stuff like that. But there's always going to be that bread and butter type lead because that's what they respond to. So
right on.
Well, look, winding it down a little bit, I want to kind of first of all ask you if you have any final thoughts, and I wanted to tell you I really appreciate your time, and if you could maybe give us any thoughts you have here as to winding it down, maybe mention your website again a couple of times and contact info if you could, Shannon.
Again, I would say to the personal producer out there that you can make this business awesome. You don't have to go out there and build a huge agency to have real freedom and time in this business. There is a lot to be said to just managing yourself, becoming a top producer. I have a lifelong buddy. One of the third guy that I got into this business still works with me today. Monday he gets on the phone and he books out his entire Tuesday, but he's done by the afternoon, and he either goes kayaking or golfing, or he rides his mountain bike, his dirt bike. Sometimes if it's the summertime, he'll take his wave runner to the lake. He goes out and he hits it hard Tuesday, writes 200, 300, 400 in premium that day, monthly premium. And then Wednesday, he relaxes, he pounds the phone in the morning, and he books out Thursday and Friday. Again, he's generally done, by noon. He goes and has lunch, and he repeats what he did on Monday. And, by Friday, by 6 o'clock, he's got another $200-300 in the bag. So there's a real lifestyle here. I would say for those men and women that are inspired to build an agency, okay, be prepared to sacrifice your time, okay? Because I promise you'll be more busy building an agency than you'll ever be in the field. And a really, really good lesson for anybody that's wanting to build is you make sure that contractually it's sound, okay? And be careful who you choose to build with, okay? Listen, Matt, again, God bless you. Thank you so much for this time. Again, everyone that hears this call, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. You don't have to take a contract with me. I'm just here to help, my direct number, my cell phone number, again, 210-771-3754, finalexpensebootcamp.com, and email address migshannon@gmail.com. And I just want to say God bless you to all, and I hope you guys make it a great day.
Well, Shannon, again, I appreciate it, and I guess me and you are fixing to head back and do some honeydew projects today.
Yeah. Yes, sir. My wife already came out to the truck and gave me the look.
I hear you. All right. Well, you have a great day, Shannon, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, God bless you. Yes, sir. Thank you,
right.
Matt. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, there you go, folks. Another one in the books of FE Life, and that was Shannon Davey with FinalExpenseBootcamp.com. Again, FinalExpenseBootcamp.com. I want to thank Shannon for being our guest today, and hope you all enjoyed that. There was some good information in that interview. And as always, for the best final expense leads in the country, visit www.theleadjerk.com. Again, www.theleadjerk.com.